Another thing we're accused of at times is being biased against dogs. On a couple of occasions, triggered dog defenders have attempted to criticize the nature of the material I reference. But when I remind dog fanatics that no study has ever demonstrated that dogs can actually love their human food dispensers, and when I note many things that are scientifically understood about dogs, all I get from the legions of easily interchangeable dog stands is hostility and denial.
No study ever demonstrated that dogs can love their owners? Are you really sure about that? And do I even have to mention the videos? Oh, and for those who are gonna bring up the dogs only care about food argument, that's stupid because there's this thing you may not have heard before. It's called hunger. Like, dogs are living creatures. They need food to thrive, just like any living being on this planet. Like, do you really expect a pet to like you despite starving them? Noting things that are scientifically understood about dogs? Funny joke, you should quit this anti-dog gig and become a comedian.
So let's be crystal clear about something. Dog worshippers and enablers are the ones who make all sorts of unfounded and unscientific claims about the nature of dogs. When we point out how aberrant dogs are compared to all other animals, we get nothing but pushback. What's ironic about this is that many dog defenders themselves refuse to see dogs for what they are, and scarcely acknowledge that they are animals. If you ask a dog owner if a dog is an animal, they will respond by telling you, of course it is. But then, they go on to treat dogs as though they were people, and attribute human traits to them. They refuse to accurately see them as animals that can attack, and which are capable of doing incredibly brutal things. They deny the fact that dogs have a prey drive, or perhaps they claim that they can somehow train it out of them. They refuse to admit that dogs are nasty, noisy, filthy, simple-minded creatures.
Billy Ninja, people caring for their dogs and allowing them to do things is treating them like people? They refuse to accurately see dogs as animals that can attack. Maybe because most dogs don't. And not to mention all the dogs that are incapable of harming a human, like Corgis, Chihuahuas, Dachshunds, Beagles, etc. And no, they are aware that dogs have prey drives. Like, there are guides that tell/show you how to control their prey drive. Not to mention, prey drives aren't inherently bad. Also, they're the ones that make unfounded and unscientific claims about dogs. ThERe boy, now ain't that just ironic coming from you? Like, dude, you don't even bother doing research on dogs and would rather make assumptions on them. And that ain't even the most ironic thing you said. This is, they refuse to see what they are. No, that's you, buddy. And I explained why seconds ago. Moving on.
Of course, if they admitted how nasty dogs are, then they might have to admit that they made the choice to live in squalor. If they were to admit that dogs are obnoxious as hell, then they might have to confront the reality that they are making a conscious choice to expose others to an obnoxious critter. They deny the fact that dogs, being that they are canines, are not wired to be brought up by bipedal hominids.
If they admit that dogs are nasty, then they might have admitted that they live in squalor.
Oh, shut up. Many of the nasty things dogs do are what other animals do.
But dogs will eat anything.
Yeah, and that's because some dogs have a disorder called pica, which makes them eat unedible things. And this is not exclusive to dogs, as cats can have it, and even people.
They may have to confront the reality that they're exposing people to an obnoxious critter.
Blah, blah, blah. We get it, barking can be annoying, but unless it's incessant barking, that mostly just ranges from people mildly getting annoyed to not giving a shit at all.
But dogs are not wired to be brought up by bipedal hominids.
Like, do you mean people can't take care of dogs because they're canines? Now that's just a stupid and pointless take, as many people have taken care of dogs and the dogs turned out fine. And not to mention, dogs are domestic animals, you know, animals that are known to be taken care of by humans. So yeah, pointless and dumbass take.
The very idea that a dog only becomes aggressive because of how a human influenced it during its formative years, for instance, flies in the face of everything we know about predatory mammals, which is something dogs are. It also ignores the existence of feral dogs, and the fact that they are typically hostile towards human presence by default. I actually presented a study on stray dogs around the world, and dog lunatics downvoted that video in droves. They did not listen to it at all. Instead, they tried to portray dogs as innocent victims, which are incapable of having a detrimental impact. It goes beyond science denial.
Dogs becoming aggressive due to human influence flies in the face of predators.
Gee, it's almost like dogs are not like other predators at all. And yeah, you're not wrong that dogs are predators, but they're not on the level of a lion or a bear. And the main thing is, dogs are domesticated. And no, feral dogs are not typically aggressive towards humans by default. They usually get aggressive when they're forced to encounter one, as they often just stay away from humans. Also, many strays are actually quite friendly.
But there are videos of stray dogs being hostile.
Yeah, and there are also videos where strays are not being hostile. And you wonder why your video on strays got downvoted.
It is a puerile refusal to view dogs in an accurate light. Going back to my previous point, other predatory mammals aren't dangerous because of the way someone conditioned them or failed to train them. They are dangerous because they possess drives and instincts which cause them to sometimes view members of our species as an object to attack. Any attempts at training or taming a dangerous animal are a way of making them less likely to attack. Domesticated or not, dogs operate in the same fundamental fashion. It is evident, even based on casual encounters with dogs, that this is how they are.
No, they are not. Yes, dogs do have prey drives and instincts, but not all dogs attack everything on sight, nor even attempt it. And like I said before, dogs are not on the level of a lion or a bear. Not all predators are the same, buddy. And also, there have been a lot of dogs that have been taken care of properly and ended up being gentle and friendly. And if you're gonna say something stupid like, "Oh, lions are capable of being gentle, but that doesn't mean they're not dangerous," or "In ancient Rome, they had pet lions and tigers." On the former, those videos of people being around calm lions are zoologists who are experienced and know how to handle wild animals like lions. And note, lions are very hard to take care of, while taking care of a dog is 100 times easier. And on the latter, those lions and tigers were used for fighting. Need I say more?
Dogs are obviously wired to be hyper-aggressive, and they have obviously been bred to bark the way they do, so it is in their nature.
If dogs are wired to be hyper-aggressive, then how come they're capable of being calm and gentle?
I was even once told how much genetic similarity is supposedly shared between our species and domestic dogs, but we are more closely related to whales and bats than we are to dogs. We actually share much more genetic similarity with chimpanzees, but we're still obviously very different from them. But it is immaterial, because dogs are pretty distant to us in some crucial ways, no matter how long humans have been domesticating them. In terms of behavior, a large dog and a chimpanzee are much more similar to one another than either is to a human. This is in spite of the fact that chimpanzees are significantly more intelligent than dogs. And whether you are living with dogs or wild apes in your home, in both cases it is dangerous and unsanitary.
Yeah, humans do share more DNA with those animals you just listed, but that doesn't change how biologically close humans and dogs are. And no, dogs and chimpanzees are very different behavior-wise. 1. Dogs are far easier to train than a chimpanzee. 2. Chimpanzees are far more aggressive than dogs. And 3, and most obvious of all, one is domesticated, the other is not. And no, idiot, having a big dog is nowhere near as dangerous as having an ape that can rip off limbs with little to no effort.
Dognutters have been very active in the promotion of pseudoscience with regard to claims about dogs. They grossly exaggerate the intelligence of dogs, and it is apparent to anyone who's paying attention what the endgame is. They are trying very hard to put the idea of dogs as our equals in everyone's head, and this will ultimately lead to these inhuman beasts being granted the same rights and legal protections. There have even been attempts to give dog owners the legal title of guardian, rather than owner.
This will lead to these inhuman beasts gaining the same rights and protection.
You can't tell me this man doesn't wear a tinfoil hat. Like, no one is exaggerating a dog's intelligence. Dogs are quite smart by animal standards, since they're a lot easier to train than a lot other animals. Some of them are quick learners, and have a crazy amount of adaptability. That's what makes them intelligent. I just love how you blatantly ignore all of that, because it shows you don't bother doing any research and would rather make assumptions.
Dog apologists and fanatics are the ones constantly espousing the ridiculous lie that dogs are psychic and capable of things no dog is physically or mentally capable of. For example, the dog's purported capacity as a mammalian evil detection machine. Look at this statement from PetMD. The first thing to take note of is that the term negative person is not a scientific term, and science isn't generally in the business of making prescriptive claims. Perhaps the most offensive thing about these statements is the idea of a person being the one that creates unsafe surroundings for dogs, when in reality it is the other way around. The explosive and dangerous behavior of dogs is what we have to watch out for when we're out and about, and these disingenuous dog propagandists have the unmitigated gall to phrase things like this.
Now this just tells me how you do not know how dogs sense things. Like, when they say a dog can sense a negative person, they don't mean that a dog will automatically know a person is bad or not. They meant that a dog can observe a person's behavior, feelings, actions, etc. Know if the person is in a bad mood. Heck, there are even studies that prove this. Yet you have the audacity to call them propagandists?
Well, I guess that's the definition of the word irony.
A little while ago, someone commented somewhere on my channel that dog nutters need to start proving that dogs can do all the things they claim dogs are capable of doing. Unless it has actually been established that dogs can do a thing, they should not run around saying it. It's also worth asking, who is funding these studies that end up having headlines like, dogs can tell if you're a dick? Why are they being conducted? In a lot of this so-called research, individuals set out to prove that dogs can do a particular thing.
And that's just not how science is done.
Oh boy, now this one just tells me that you're just a plain idiot. Like, do you even know how these studies work? Like, they actively interact with the dogs, give them some tasks, and collect information for their research. And yes, it is science, you bitch-ass ninja.